The first scream of the dog echoed like a thunderclap against the metal walls, sharp enough to slice through the air. The officers standing at the far end of the hallway stiffened, exchanging looks of uneasy recognition. Everyone in that building knew the sound. It belonged to the most dangerous, unpredictable, and aggressive retired K-9 ever handled by the department. And yet, unbelievably, the man slowly walking toward that kennel couldn't even see the source of the sound. He moved with a cautious tap of his white cane, dark glasses hiding the eyes he lost in a dust storm explosion overseas. His name was Ethan Hale, a blind veteran still haunted by the last thing he ever saw. As the dog's snarling grew louder, the staff braced themselves. They knew that even experienced handlers were advised to keep distance from the cage. But the blind veteran kept walking, drawn by something he couldn't explain. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unexpected bonds that save lives, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and lets us continue sharing powerful stories like this. Ethan had learned to move without sight, but nothing could prepare him for the sheer force of the dog's rage erupting from the cage a few feet ahead. The animal's growling was raw and violent, filled with a fury that made even the officers step back. But Ethan didn't flinch. He felt the vibrations of the dog's growls through the metal floor. He felt the coldness of the hallway air. He felt his heart pounding with a strange mix of fear and connection. He didn't know why, but he sensed something in that dog, something broken, something hurting, something struggling to breathe beneath layers of trauma and distrust. Ethan wasn't there to adopt a dog. He had barely convinced himself to visit the K-9 Rehabilitation Center at all. After losing his sight, he spent months drifting between medical appointments, dark thoughts, and the echo of explosions that played in his head every night. The world felt smaller, quieter, somehow further away. His friends disappeared into their own lives. His parents urged him to stay strong, but they couldn't understand the silence he lived in. He wasn't missing just his eyes, he felt like he had lost a part of his soul. His therapist had suggested a support animal, but Ethan refused. He didn't want pity. He didn't want to depend on anyone, especially not a gentle, soft, calming dog that would make him feel weak. But something inside him cracked the day he overheard two officers at a coffee shop whispering about a retired K-9 named Rocco. A dog so fiercely loyal that he once saved 3 officers' lives, but something had happened during a raid that changed him. Since then, Rocco attacked anyone who approached, trusted no one, and was considered beyond rehabilitation. Ethan didn't know why the story haunted him. He didn't know why he kept thinking about a dog he had never seen and never would see. All he knew was this: Rocco sounded like a soul that understood his pain. And so he found himself standing in that hallway, guided by a staff member who warned him repeatedly that the dog was dangerous. Ethan insisted he only wanted to hear him, whatever that meant. The staff reluctantly agreed, though they watched nervously as he approached. Now, with the snarling only inches away, Ethan could feel the heat of the dog's breath through the metal bars. He could hear the scrape of claws on concrete, the frantic, angry pacing, the desperate challenge in every growl. Rocco wasn't just aggressive, he was terrified. Ethan let his cane rest at his side and slowly crouched down. The officers held their breath. But the veteran wasn't thinking about danger. He was thinking about a day in Afghanistan when he crouched exactly like this beside a soldier who was losing control, hyperventilating, consumed by fear after a blast. Ethan had pressed his hand to the man's shoulder and whispered, "I'm here." He didn't need eyes to understand fear. He didn't need sight to recognize the trembling sound hidden inside the growl. Rocco lunged at the bars, teeth clashing violently. The officers jumped. Ethan didn't. He whispered softly, not words, just a breath, a presence. The dog's growls faltered for half a second. Half a second, but it was enough. Rocco backed up, pacing again, but something in the air had changed. The rage was still there, but the rhythm of it was different, uneven, almost confused. Ethan slowly raised one hand, stopping a few inches short of the bars. Not touching, just offering. The dog stopped pacing. The growl softened. Not much, but enough for Ethan to sense it. The handlers stared in disbelief. For months no one, not even Rocco's former partner, had been able to get this close without the dog exploding. But this blind stranger, whose world was perpetual darkness, had walked straight into the storm without fear. Ethan felt a warmth, a presence leaning toward him. The dog was close again. He felt the breath through the bars. He sensed the hesitation. Ethan waited, patient, steady. And then Rocco retreated again, barking furiously. The moment was gone. The staff rushed forward, urging Ethan to step away, but he refused. He stood, adjusted his jacket, and asked calmly, "Can I come back tomorrow?" The staff exchanged startled looks. The most experienced handler finally nodded, though she looked like she was witnessing something she didn't have words for. Ethan returned the next day. And the next. And the next after that. Each day, he came earlier. Each day, he stayed longer. Each day, Rocco growled a little less. He wasn't trying to tame the dog. He wasn't trying to be a hero. He wasn't even sure what he was doing. But in the darkness of his world, the sound of Rocco's breathing, shifting, pacing, it brought him something he hadn't felt in months. Purpose. The officers watched as the impossible slowly formed. Ethan would sit cross-legged on the floor near the cage, telling stories from his service days, confessing his fears, admitting that the dark terrified him, even though he lived in it constantly. Rocco listened. Sometimes growling, sometimes pacing, but listening. One morning, the pacing stopped. And Ethan felt something soft touch the back of his hand through the bars. A nose. Just for a moment. Just a quick, trembling nudge. And from that point forward, everything changed. After 2 weeks, Rocco no longer barked when Ethan approached. After 3 weeks, the dog sat quietly whenever he heard the man's cane tapping. And after 1 month, the handlers risked opening the gate. Rocco didn't lunge. He didn't bare his teeth. He didn't growl. Instead, he walked straight to Ethan, rested his head against the veteran's knee, and let out a long, shaky exhale, as if releasing years of fear and grief. The staff watching from down the hall wiped their eyes. They had never seen Rocco trust anyone like that. Ethan reached out and touched the top of the dog's head gently, his fingers brushing through the coarse fur. A broken soldier and a broken dog, each carrying scars no one else could see, finally found someone who understood. The rehabilitation center asked Ethan if he would consider adopting Rocco. He hesitated, not because he didn't want to, but because he feared he wasn't strong enough. He feared failing the dog who had already been failed by so many. But the decision became clear the moment he stood to leave the room and felt Rocco gently grab his sleeve with his mouth, refusing to let him go. Ethan adopted him the next day. From that moment forward, everything about the veteran's life changed. Rocco became his anchor, his guide in ways beyond sight. When Ethan walked through town tapping his cane, Rocco walked beside him, nudging him away from obstacles, slowing when the terrain changed, stopping when a curb approached. Though not trained as a guide dog, Rocco had a soldier's instinct, protect at all costs. Ethan's nightmares quieted. Rocco slept beside his bed every night, alert, calm, a guardian in the dark. And Rocco's aggression disappeared completely, except when he sensed someone threatening Ethan. Then the old fire returned, controlled but fierce, like a loyal warrior standing between danger and the person who saved him. One afternoon, a passing stranger tried to snatch Ethan's dropped wallet. Before the men could blink, Rocco positioned himself in front of Ethan, teeth bared, body rigid. The thief froze and ran. Ethan knelt, thanking the dog with trembling hands. In Rocco's steady breathing, he felt something stronger than loyalty. He felt family. Months passed, and their bond deepened until one day, Ethan found himself standing on a stage at a community event, sharing his story. His voice broke when he said he once felt like a burden to the world, until a broken, dangerous dog showed him otherwise. Ethan couldn't see the crowd crying. But he heard them. He felt the warmth in their silence. And at his feet, Rocco pressed against his leg, calm and proud. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more life-changing stories. It means more than you know.